Hello everybody, this is Suzanne Kellner-Zinck coming back to you with more information for helping you to disappear your type 2 diabetes. Earlier today, when I was just looking at my email that came in overnight, I was dismayed to find that doctors out there are not being able to actually tell people what they need to know in order to reverse their type 2 diabetes. And it's because there's a lot of money to be made, especially when one is selling insulin. Insulin is really expensive. I don't know how much it costs actually, but it is very, very, very expensive. And if you have type 1 diabetes, you absolutely do need to have it because your body isn't making it. But I'm not talking about type 1 diabetes. That's not my expertise. It's type 2 diabetes, totally different. And to tell you the honest truth, I don't even know why they call it diabetes, because it has to do with the insulin not working, but it really should be called insulin resistance disease because that's what it is. It is that your insulin is not working the way that it needs to work. And another thing that I would like to teach you today as to why it is that the insulin isn't getting into your cells, so you better understand the physiology, because this is always helpful to understand what isn't working and why. When a person cannot absorb the carbohydrates that are going into their body, what happens is you get something called fatty liver, which I talked about in my previous video. And what happens when that happens is there's a lot of fat that's going around in your cells. And your cells get coated in fat. And that's why the insulin can't get through, because it can't get through the fat that is on the outside of the cells that need the energy. This is why it's important for you to understand that in order to really reverse the type 2 diabetes, one needs to eat fewer calories. And if you follow Dr. Jason Fung, who was the original person that I got a lot of my information from, because he's an MD, first of all right, that helps. And the fact of the matter is that he was really concerned as to why it was that his type 2 diabetics that were coming to him for kidney disease were going into kidney failure. And what he figured out was that it had everything to do with the fact that they were getting fatty liver disease, fatty pancreas, and that was all due to insulin resistance. And if we look through all the ages of time, what people would normally do before we had these things called grocery stores was they would eat for a period and then they would go without food for quite a long time because of the seasons, because of whatever. Because in the days before we had this thing called food manufacturing and even farms, it was a lot harder for people to get their food. Plus, they were doing natural exercise every day just to be able to do the things they needed to do in order to live. Now on, all we do is sit in front of our computers or on our iPhones or our iPads. We aren't really getting the exercise that we need, number one, which is a problem. And number two, which means that we're not burning the calories that we're eating, right? And then number two, if you have all the sugar running around in your bloodstream and it's turning into fat by the liver, you're creating more of a problem for yourself. So through all the ages, if you look at all the spiritual traditions all over the place, there's always fasting involved. And it's probably because they realized back in the old times that fasting was a very healthy way to keep the body healthy. There's a lot of things that happen after a certain amount of hours of fasting. You're detoxifying your body, number one. You're burning the energy that you are bringing into your body, which is what you need to be doing anyway. That's why we eat. It may be pleasurable to eat a lot of the foods that we eat, but you're generally eating so that you get the nutrition that you need to build your body so the body can do the functions that the body needs to do naturally, right? If you don't have certain nutrients, which is why older people need supplements because they're not able to metabolize those nutrients as easily as younger people, well, your body's not going to be able to do its job so quite well as maybe it could. It's also very evident when I'm looking at people who come to me for anorexia and bulimia, who restrict their diets or they eat way too much and they end up, a lot of them purge. They call it purging. And they cause all kinds of problems physiologically because there's a lot of stomach acids that come up and it really hurts their gastrointestinal tract. And that purging bulimics, anorexics, and then the anorexics who restrict their diets so much that they're not getting the nutrients they need. And one of the things that we do need is we need healthy fats. They're very, very important. Your brain is mostly fat and water. Your eyes are mostly fat. The myelin sheath that covers your nerves so that you're not shorting out all over the place, that's known as multiple sclerosis. And if you have epilepsy, it's happening in your brain, they're shorting out your nervous system in the brain. These are real true problems. So we need to be very aware of why it is that we're eating the nutrients that we're eating and why we need to have these things, quite frankly. And if you're not eating enough calories, you're not going to have the energy that you need in order to even focus doing the things that you're doing in a day, not even exerting any exercise energy in this way. But we do need to move our bodies, and that's another thing I want to hit on. It's really important for people to realize. Your body needs movement for many reasons. For one thing, you want to keep your circulatory system healthy and happy. For another thing, your lymph system, which is part of your detoxification system, does not have a muscle like the heart for your circulatory system to keep the lymph fluid going through your lymphs, which you have all throughout your body. So the way the lymph system works is through your movement. So you need to move to detoxify through your lymph system. Really, really, really important. You also want to be able to keep your muscles strong, especially as you age. Your muscles atrophy a lot more than if you're younger. It's just part of the aging process and the hormones and things that happen. So it's really important to keep yourself doing some strength building exercise in whatever way you can to make them stay firm and active. That would be a good way to put it. Firm and active. It also gives you a nice lean body to look at. Because muscles do not turn to fat. They're different cells. Fat cells are known as adipose tissue. They look differently. Actually, if you were to look at a muscle cell under the microscope, it would look very much like wires do that the electricians go into with different cords going around one another. And they just get pulled to the point where they get stretched, and then people need to eat more protein so that proteins can actually rebuild them stronger. That's why you have to take a day between any part of the body that you're going to do any strength training with in terms of using weights and things, because you need to give your body time to actually heal the stretched out muscle tissue that you might have ripped a little bit that needs to come together stronger. It's really important to understand your physiology, to understand what you need in order to take care of yourselves, diabetic or not. So do what you need to do in order to eat a lot healthier. Do eat more proteins, eat more healthy fats, eat whole food carbohydrates. That means the carbohydrate comes in one whole food, not preserved foods, not prepackaged foods, not simple carbohydrates with all the whites in it like we talked about in the last video that I did, but whole food. If you want to have an apple, eat a freaking apple. They're good for you. There's all kinds of really healthy nutrition in it. It's fine. It's not going to kill you. And think with your brain about what your body actually needs. In fact, I would go as far as to say, a while back I was studying with a certain school of thought. One of the things that they suggested in terms of eating anything is to stand with your two legs together and just ask your mind if this is something that's healthy for you or not. And if you lean toward it, it is. And if you lean back, it's not. It's kind of interesting. It's actually a form of muscle testing, which some of the alternative healers and chiropractors use to find out if something is good or not. So go use that technique for yourselves and make yourselves healthier, stronger, and feeling a lot better. Because I can tell you this, If you eat appropriately, if you do a little strength bearing exercise, do a little yoga, Tai Chi, these things always help, and a little self hypnosis or meditation that will keep your mind in a really good place, especially during all these crazy times that we're living in right now where a lot of things don't make a whole lot of sense, especially over in the United States. So glad I'm not there right now. You will find yourself in a much better mind space, and you'll be able to take care of yourself a lot better, because anything that we can do to reduce stress is going to help us to lower our blood sugars as well. All right. I thank you for taking your time to watch this video, and I will bring out more of them probably every other day or so. We'll see how the schedule works and how I come up with ideas and things, but it's a good way to learn things, and I love doing video. So there you go. See you later.